be doing my presentation over abusive supervision. So this concept is something that I was really able to resonate with because I've had experiences with it firsthand. Abusive supervision is studied in the workplace and is defined as the employee's perception of leaders using hostile behavior towards other employees. So this creates a very toxic environment for employees, and it has a lot of negative side effects. And though those negative side effects outweigh the positive effects, there are a few positive outcomes that are very worth noting. So during this presentation, I'm going to outline what abusive supervision is, what causes it, the negative side effects, positive side effects, and how those effects are related to performance. I'm also going to share some examples and some of my personal experiences with abusive supervision. So since I've already defined what abusive supervision is, I'd like to put it in some more familiar terms. So when I think of abusive supervision, I think of having bad leadership, favoritism in the workplace, toxic work environments, increased employee turnover, and overall super unhappy employees. It's super important for businesses to foster healthy work environments, continual improvement in their management, and also show that the company and the leadership actually care about their employees. So without these things, you begin to see the evolution of abusive supervision. So there's 3 different sections that can kind of feed into that abusive supervision. And some of those sections have effects on others. And the first section is social learning. So leaders that abuse their power have often learned this from their environments around them. And that would be how they grew up, what the organization's standards are, what kind of social environment they're surrounded by. And all of these things influence the way a person lives, their perception of things, and what kind of leadership style they foster. And sad leaders, people in the management profession that are power hungry, and they thrive off belittling others. And that thirst for power negatively affects the people around them and causes workplaces to absolutely crumble. So the next section is identity threat. And people that abuse their power are often threatened by competition. They have built up aggression that is now being taken out on the people around them. They're often very sensitive, they're angered easily, and they're not good at taking constructive criticism. Not everybody's good at that, but it's good to learn that. And so in my opinion, those kind of people just shouldn't be in management or leadership positions because their personality and their mindset just don't foster a healthy work environment. And they wouldn't really be able to de-escalate situations with customers or their employees. And that's a very big important thing in leadership. So the last section that feeds into abusive supervision is self-regulation impairment. And that would be when leaders can't self-regulate in order to be successful and lead adequately. So you often see fatigue, increased pressure to perform, and a workload that is not attainable. And so each of these 3 sections play off each other, and all of these negative factors produce abusive supervision. So with abusive supervision in play, there is a performance enhancing pathway and a performance undermining pathway. And many people take this negativity and learn how to cope with it to be successful. And some employees will work harder to avoid the further hostility. Some want to just prove their manager wrong. And some people work harder to seek that positive recognition from the people who are not normally giving it. So many times when abusive supervision is occurring, employees will begin to look for new employment. And a lot of times you'll see people keeping the peace so that they can keep their positive reputation intact, or so their current employer can be used as a reference in the future. So kind of looking at the undermining performance pathway, see a lot more of the negative effects of abusive supervision. So some of those would be resource depletion, compromised team dynamics, and negative role modeling. And so like I said before, abusive supervision does not foster a positive work environment. And without those positive reinforcements, teams are even worse off. So this kind of environment is dog eat dog and every man for themselves. So it's hard to have a good team dynamic when the organization itself is in turmoil. So it's also important to know that you would not want subordinates to look up to or model their management style after someone who takes advantage of their power. That would just cause a succession of negative leadership. And negative leadership results in high turnover, increased costs, and toxic work environments. It's hard for an organization to come back from that. And so upper management should always assess their candidates when looking to fill those new leadership positions. So both of these pathways are a direct result of employee performance. Some people work harder and others will be extremely unmotivated, and neither of those can be successful in this environment. So like I stated, I believe it's extremely important for the upper management to thoroughly assess the people they're looking to put in management positions, because those are the people that are going to directly affect their employees. You know, unhappy employees cause a dramatic decrease in performance of a company. You know, you can't have unhappy people doing good things for you. So now that I've explained like kind of what abusive supervision is, I want to give you some like real life examples that I've experienced in my professional career, as well as some movie portrayals from this concept. So first, I'm going to start with a very popular movie that highlights a boss that has created an extremely hostile work environment for her employees.
You have no style or sense of fashion.
I think that depends on what you're...
No. That wasn't a question. There's some reason that my coffee isn't here. Has she died or something? I don't understand why it's so difficult to confirm an appointment.
No, I'm so sorry, Miranda. I actually did confirm last
Details
night.
of your incompetence do not interest me.
Hey.
Breakfast here. Are my eggs here? Where are my eggs? On the lingerie shoot. On my car. Or on Madison. Get us a reservation for dinner. Review my flight. Thank you notes delivered today. Where is everyone? Why is no one If you don't have that Harry Potter book by then, don't even bother coming back. Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be us.
And that movie is Devil Wears Prada. Most people know that. It's a pretty popular movie here in the US, and you know, over the past few decades, everybody watches it. So this movie shows a young Anne Hathaway becoming the assistant to a very prestigious fashion magazine editor. And through the course of the movie, the assistant must go through the trials and tribulations of working under this very hostile boss. The movie very adequately shows abusive supervision firsthand and how bad management can recreate a hostile work environment for the employees. I won't spoil the movie because it's a really good watch, but I would definitely check it out at some point. It's, like I said, it's a great watch. So with that, I want to give a few examples from my professional career. So even though I've only been working for roughly about 6 years, I have experienced abusive supervision a few times in my professional career. And one time I can remember would be when I worked in a grocery store when I was 16, and all the people in management were just super unprofessional. It was very common for managers to show favoritism, become angry at simple questions, set unrealistic expectations for what should be completed each shift. It made it really hard for me to show up to work every day with a smile on my face. And I've never been one to like show up and not put all my effort into working. But when my efforts weren't appreciated and the people around me were always unhappy, it just made it really hard for me to enjoy my job. So I was basically walking on eggshells around my management at all times. So all these negative aspects of the job were noticed by all the employees around me. And it felt like just because all the managers were like best friends and there was no privacy in making complaints, nothing was going to change. And we would almost be punished for asking. So I ultimately left that job and started a job where I now coach children's gymnastics. And you know, every job you do has its ups and downs, but I've always felt really appreciated, but also heard in my current job. And I've always appreciated that. So abusive supervision is one of the most toxic traits in an organization, and organizations must be mindful of the leaders they elect and what their management styles will be so that when they're influencing the teams around them. I really wish abusive supervision didn't exist because I know for a fact that we'd all be better off without it. But sadly, this is a thing in our world, and a lot of people are power hungry and they enjoy seeing other people suffer. So that negative energy comes from within, and I've recognized that those people have to recognize it in themselves and treat it themselves, because if not, they're never going to be an effective leader. So I really appreciate you spending the time to listen to my presentation, and I hope you have a better understanding of what abusive supervision is through my definitions and examples. Thank you.